Do you think that the horse has things bolted from the stable in context of this order that has been issued for him to appear? Because, I mean, you heard the prosecution counsel there says, in the event that he doesn't appear, the IGP or the DSS may be held in contempt. What happens then?
I think that's his personal opinion. Our respected learned sake, Awomolo, SAN, certainly would do the needful.
But as it is now, the way this whole thing is, the CCT depends on proceeding with this case. Yes, the NJC, they're also looking into this matter. So where are we now in this kind of case? They seem to be proceeding on both fronts.
Why the hurry? Why the rush? Whether wrongly or rightly, we still have the order of the Federal High Court restraining the CCT. Whether wrongly or rightly, the order of the National Industrial Court, those orders have not been set aside. Restraining the CCT from further proceeding. Why the hurry? You adjourn the matter for interlocutory applications bordering on jurisdiction to be taken, and behind, you now issue the purported interim order suspending the CJN. It was not even served with that order. Before you knew what, that same day or the next day was removed. How do you do that? We're very careful how we celebrate all these things.
But you're living at the fact that, yes, the CJN went to court to see how they can stay action on some of these
which is actually right.
And it was struck out.
Yes.
And there's a procedure.
And that's okay. Because the Court of Appeal felt, look, rather than going through all these interlocutory applications, let's deal with the substantive appeal. I don't know.
So isn't that what the CCT is doing now?
The CCT ought to stay proceedings because the Court of Appeal is already deciding on its jurisdiction.
Let me take you back to the part.
You understand? It makes sense.
Let me take you back to the point where he got the the ex parte order was gotten, and then that led to the suspension. How does it amount to you? Because there was a process, and there were timelines. We understand that on the 22nd, court adjourned until 28. Somewhere in between, we got an ex parte order. Explain to me, just so that I understand it clearly, because from that point, everything else seems to be very shroudy and muddy. How is it possible that a case that has been adjourned from the 22nd to 28 gets an ex parte order in between, and then that led to the suspension? Is that an anomaly?
Lawyers are still wondering how it happened. By the way, sir, Jimba, the case was adjourned from 20th to 22nd for determination of the interlocutory applications bordering on jurisdiction. Now, when a court's jurisdiction is being challenged, the only thing that court can do is to decide and determine that application challenging its jurisdiction, nothing else. So, we are surprised. And by the way, the interim order, to date, we've not been told. Because when you see the interim order, you will not see the name of any lawyer that moved the application, which is very, very... we are wondering, how did it happen? How?
But do we need to worry? Because if you say that the NGC petitions have been appropriately sent to them, they are considering the matter, you say that's the right place. So should we really be bothered? Because if we expect them to do the right thing, whatever the outcome is, that perhaps should hold the day. Should we have concerns anymore?
We should have concerns, particularly with respect to the purported order that was issued by the CCT today.
Concerning the
bench warrant. That's why we are asking, why the hurry? Why? Let the NJC conclude. And I can assure you that the NJC will conclude this matter in no time. In no time.
So will that then supersede whatever the CCT is doing?
Why not wait? What would you stand to lose? He has now been purportedly suspended. So what is the problem? Why not wait? You don't lose anything.
But you know, I know that you're speaking about the process and what the right thing should be and how it should proceed.
But let me
also even ask you, because those who look at this whole scenario, they just ask themselves, but in the first instance, if this matter already even comes up against the #1 judicial officer, they think that, look, it's a noble profession. It shouldn't even be. Are they embarrassed? Aren't you surprised that this kind of matter will even come up as against the CJN?
We are going to the moral field. Certainly, as a judicial officer, you are supposed to be above board. And if issues like this come up, you're expected to do the right thing. But doing the right thing is your personal decision.
Personal decision to do the right thing?
Personal decision, when it comes to morality, it becomes a personal decision of the holder of that office, the judicial officer. I cannot speak for him on that issue, but what we are saying, the MB is saying, is on the basis of the rule of law and due process, what CCT has done is completely wrong. If the CJN ought to have resigned or still wants to resign, without necessarily waiting for the NJC's decision, that would be his personal decision. But there's a bigger picture.
Which is?
He has already been harassed every second, every hour, persecuted. The world knows. So if he now resigns today...
No, it's a Nigerian process. It's a process.
If he now resigns today...
It's a judicial process.
Because of the unnecessary persecution and pressure from the executive... everybody says it. It's clear. It's clear.
No, but it's a judicial process that he's going through as a judicial officer, as your colleague as well.
The right process will be before the NJC, not before the CCT.
Even that, there's a process that is in place. And calling for his resignation, an outright resignation, for instance, I'm wondering what place that comes, where that situates itself in. Because if we have a process, and we're a country of processes, the president himself has said that sometimes the issues that we have in this country has to do with the process. If the federal government, again, so Onnoghen, feels that they won't get that kind of process well straightened out, well outlined, and maybe subverted, don't you think it's the right thing for them to find the next avenue that can adequately, lawfully address this issue once and for all, such that it is not seen as if it's a witch hunt?
We are saying the same thing, Jimba. That is still the NJC. That is the right place, the right avenue. If the NJC had handled this matter, the way these issues have gone viral...
But the NJC doesn't see it as that. It doesn't see it as this,
the federal government?
Yes, it doesn't see it as the NJC. It sees it as the CCT.
But eventually they submitted a petition to the NJC based on the same set of facts. That means they now believe that NJC is the right place. Otherwise, why did they even bother?
So what should happen next?
I would expect that the CCT should hold on, put its proceedings in abeyance.
Perpetually?
No, it can't be perpetually. In abeyance, pending the outcome of decisions to be made by the NJC. And by the way, the Court of Appeal is still there. So you can wait.
But you know, what do you think about, because they've argued this back and forth, when you say the appropriate place is the NJC, there's still a bone of contention for a lot of people.
The CJN is a judicial officer. That is a procedure.
Yeah, I get the point. But what about those who...
He doesn't think so.
Yeah,
I still have very serious... Because
we
need to draw that line.
You'll come to that in a minute.
Can I answer your question? Sorry, I can't answer the question.
I'm just wondering.
But I made reference to military officers.
Yeah, that's a separate
I made reference to even police officers.
But this same thing...
They have their own internal process. It's the same way we have it in the judiciary.
The same thing happened to the legislature. The president of the Senate was put in the same dock.
And by the
he
way,
is the head of an arm of government.
And by the way, sir, no court can remove or purportedly to suspend the CJN without the intervention of the Senate or the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That is our constitution. Okay, so if you do not agree with me on other scores, but on the basis of this, the suspension was completely
let me place this on you. I think we still have a little bit of time. The CCB Act says that whenever any complaint comes, okay, that complaint concerning the CCB rules should be taken to where? The CCT. Should that have been set aside? Are you asking for an exception? Is it not the same law?
But the CCB Act is also subject to the Constitution. The Constitution supersedes all the provisions in the CCB Act.
How come that clause wasn't added as subject to the Constitution?
No, it is an act. It is not the Constitution. The Constitution has already said, if you want to... In fact, by the way, the Constitution does not even provide for suspension of the CJN. Because why? You don't have deputy Chief Justice of Nigeria. So if you want to remove, you remove him, not like suspension. And that's what the Constitution provided for. So the CCT Act is subject to the Constitution. There's no other way you can interpret it.
You see, one issue that is difficult to swallow is that the composition of the NJC, the 23 judges that make up the NJC.
No, they are not judges.
Okay, members of the NJC are appointed by the CJN. Is that true?
I'm not aware of that.
20 of them are
20?
Yes, 20 of the 23.
No, the CCB.
Yes. No. I'm talking of the NJC.
CCT?
Of the NJC.
No, the NJC.
Yes,
oh, you're talking about the NJC.
Yes.
Yes, some of them are nominated by the CGN.
No, 20 of them actually. Is that true?
That is the law. Probably the National Assembly will have to look into that. That is the law. They will have to look into that.
Does that then, will it be then right to submit that if you take that case of the CJN to the NJC, the case will go in favor of the CJN?
It doesn't necessarily follow that way. You may not like a judge, but the judge may end up treating your matter fairly. Now, let me give it back to you. The CCT as constituted only has 3 members. And assuming it is manifestly shown that the CCT is biased, which we are all saying is biased, how do you apply that? Another panel is set up to consider your case. So many issues have been thrown up that the National Assembly will need to look into. And the CCT, being under the executive arm of government, I see it as an aberration.
Well, that's a separate matter.
That's my personal
opinion. Which they will need to sort out, but the law is the law at the moment on that setting up of the CCT. But, you know, for those who talk about the powers to appoint and remove the CGN, when they cite the Interpretation Act and say, look, isn't it natural if a man has a power to appoint, doesn't he have the same power to remove? Because if they go and talk about Section 11 of the Interpretation Act.
That's generally.
But they were a little specific about this one. They cite that section saying, well, if the president has the power to appoint, that also includes the power to remove.
That argument, with great respect, that argument is not correct. Because it wasn't the president, it was the president that appointed solely the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
On the recommendation.
Yes. So, if you're talking appointments, so there were about 2 or 3 authorities that were involved in the appointment process. The Senate is also involved, the NJC is involved, the presidency is involved. So, what you just said will come into place
in suspending him.
Sorry, please, I'm sorry, please, just a second. That's your argument will only come into place when the president is the sole appointing authority. Recommending, nominating, everything is the only one. But not in this case.
Okay, so what about in case of suspension?
He can't even suspend. Because the Constitution doesn't provide for suspension of the CGN.
But the Constitution didn't provide for the doctrine of necessity at the time that it came into use.
The doctrine of necessity can only come in when the legal provisions are not adequate enough. Not in this case.
All right, Mr. Kunle is the Publicity Secretary of the NBA. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.